And this institute is going to force you to begin to see that. So that at the end of the day, the question of how you validate knowledge and what you know is going to be a part of the discussion that we have to undertake. Right? How come that if a Jean or John Komarov is writing on religion in Southern Africa, there is a heavy dose of validity to it, and not a whole range of academics who've been writing about these topics for generations, and whose practices of knowing differ significantly? Why not the local intellectuals in our communities whose knowledge exists but we have not appreciated and gotten in touch with it? Why not the huge store of knowledge in Timbuktu that has been there years, generations, and for which today people are saying we have discovered libraries in Timbuktu? What is this fetishism with discovery? In a context where there are a whole range of people who live with that knowledge, produced it, and stored it for generations. So the vocabulary becomes important, the language becomes important, the conceptual tools are important, because they all feed a particular narrative with a singular system of knowing that we need to disrupt. And this is what this institute is going to do. It's going to encourage you to make the point that depoliticized knowledge does not exist. And that there is a legitimate agenda in repoliticizing the knowledge we produce. Repoliticizing it in favor of what is good for the plurality or generality of Africans, if you will, in African studies. Not because you want to serve a particular form of political power. It's just that you want your knowledge to speak to forms of power that empower and emancipate Africans. And it's going to do this by looking at the different sites where the silence has been fostered, where you do not question. So their concept, their methodologies. We're looking at the institutional anchors of African studies and asking ourselves questions about what do they mean. There was a colleague who said she's an aspiring student, aspiring to go to UNISA. There must be a logic behind that. How many Africans want to come to CODESRIA? There's a logic behind that. And I want to conclude by speaking to a particularly difficult issue that we've dealt with in CODESRIA. It has to do with how we publish and disseminate knowledge. I should conclude there, right? I conclude there partly because Ibrahim Owanda has been running the publications program in acting capacity, and he has only 15 days to leave CODESRIA. But if you paid attention to what we do, we now have a clear system of publishing you. And our main challenge is that Africans don't want to publish with us. Oh, yeah. Many times you come across instances where colleagues on the continent tell you they don't have an outlet to publish. And my response to them nowadays is very simple. We've been publishing CODESRIA Africa Development, which is the premier social science journal that we in CODESRIA publish. We've been publishing it for 47 years. So what are you telling me about credibility, legitimacy? What are you telling me about quality? If I've been doing it for 47 years, there's something I'm doing right. And today, we feel happy that we actually are now publishing Africa Development on time. We don't have a backlog, which is the biggest excuse. We are indexed, which is the other excuse, right? We publish in English, French, and Portuguese, a contradiction, but it's a suitable way of reaching out a bigger audience, right? So there's no excuse why colleagues don't publish with CODESRIA. But even more importantly, we are one of the leading publishers in Africa. We have a range of defining books. But the generation that prioritized publishing in CODESRIA before they published anywhere else is slowly dwindling and disappearing. Achima Feje, whenever he wanted to make his publication, CODESRIA was the first point of call. And some of his most intensely engaging debates, CODESRIA Bulletin. We struggle to provoke debates in CODESRIA Bulletin nowadays, right? The late Claude Ake, CODESRIA was the priority publisher. Samir Amin, okay? Because I think that unless we deal with the question of publishing and ask the important questions, we might not realize the biggest, the most consequential power, political power in knowledge production sits at the gates of publishing. When the CODESRIA website was sliding on that PowerPoint wall, you will have seen a book by Jacques Dipelchin on Congo. And we remembered to highlight it when a piece of Lumumba's tooth was given such prominence back home. Nobody talked about the body, right? And that book, which was translated by Aikwe Yama from French to English, was rejected by virtually all publishers. They didn't want to touch it. And the late Thandika, on hearing it, said, bring it here, we want to publish, and translated it. Because in African studies, the greatest power sits with gatekeepers in journals, with gatekeepers in publishing. And many times pick up any journal. Many times when you read a book review, or you read an article where somebody is doing a review, literature review, there are indicative words of which one is quality, which one is legitimate, which one represents Africa better than the other. There's a leading analyst of, you've not heard of him here in Africa. How did they become leading analysts of? You flip to the citations. It is a network of friends and colleagues whose citations are reinforcing a particular narrative about a particular topic, connected by different whatever. If I was an anthropologist and sociologist, I was going to start talking about kinship networks, right? And reinforcing a particular system of thinking about anything African, including African politics, right? And we have to do something, not just in terms of highlighting these skewed power relationships, but also implementing more vigorously, right, our own systems of validating our knowledge. A huge chunk of which, I think the quote from Thandika remains relevant, a huge chunk of which may not have the latest citations, but may have the latest data. Many books out there have the latest citations, but not the latest data. Okay? I hope I have sufficiently provoked you. to begin to ask these questions. And at the heart of my presentation, very briefly, has been to say, this is both a philosophical question and a practical political question. And so I'm not going to be dismissive of the philosophical engagement that we're going to do around the normative order and how it defines the dynamics of politics in production of knowledge. I'm not going to be dismissive of that. I would be making the biggest blunder ever. What I'm suggesting is that there are also practical dimensions to this question that we need to deal with. And my wish and hope is that this institute is going to open your eyes. If you choose not to see, it's a choice you've made. And that by the time you leave the institute, not only would you have benefited richly from the institute, but you would have created a new network, if you will, a new kinship network that is not providing alternative knowledge, it's providing the knowledge that we need in Africa. Thank you very much. So I was meant to finish at 10:30, and it's 2 minutes to. I want to appreciate all of you. I want to thank you for choosing CODESRIA. I hope you're going to benefit from this institute. I don't know if our colleagues from UNISA know that in thinking about whether to allow you in or not, we remembered that your Vice Chancellor is a former member of the CODESRIA Executive Committee, a good friend of ours, a good combatant for CODESRIA, I must say, but also somebody whose politics of knowledge production is in the right place, both in terms of her own scholarship as a person, but also the way she pushes the emancipatory project in many ways. Somebody who joined CODESRIA very young. The time when Puleng Lengapula joined CODESRIA, I remember very well, with the support of people like Achima Feje training them. We are happy that you have joined us for this institute. I hope many other universities can reach out to us and say, we would like to bring our students to the institute. I also want to just two very quick admin issues. I hate it when I go to a meeting like this and it's not clear. For those colleagues who are being sponsored by CODESRIA, we normally offer a modest, really modest per diem to take care of your being here. And don't debate, don't anything. I think Gladys and her team will be ready to reach out to you to resolve that part of your stay in CODESRIA. And finally, I want to thank our colleagues in the interpretation booth. Those are the people who will hear virtually everything you will say. Okay? Thank you very much. And I believe that we should therefore take a quick break, a quick tea break. I think I have served some tea. If I do not see you throughout the week, depending on how my schedule is looking like, I will definitely see you on Friday, because we will have another session where we review our experiences as a way of learning from you and thinking about where. So very welcome to Dhaka, very welcome to CODESRIA, and have a good week from now on. Thank you.